Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
My name is Victor, and I'm a 35-year-old regular office worker. For years ago, I got married to Susan, who was my girlfriend at the time. While Susan was naturally reserved, her smile had this incredible way of brightening everyone's day. After getting married, we settled into a comfortable routine, almost like best friends sharing a life together. But there was one thing that cast a shadow over our relationship: our different needs for physical intimacy and sex life. Susan wasn't particularly interested in that aspect of marriage and was pretty straightforward about it. She was comfortable with intimacy about once every couple of months. For me, that wasn't nearly enough. I wanted those special moments at least twice a week, and this mismatch created a strain on our relationship. I never pushed Susan on this. I respected that she had her own comfort level, and I knew forcing the issue would only make her miserable. That wasn't what I wanted. Besides, life with Susan was generally pleasant and peaceful. Still, every morning on my commute, I couldn't help but wonder if this was how I'd have to live forever. Little did I know that my relationship with my boss Tom and his wife Jennifer would end up completely changing everything. One typical workday, I noticed Tom looking particularly down. He'd always been this warm, supportive boss who'd taken me under his wing since day one and genuinely celebrated when I got married. We'd built quite a friendship over the years, from weekend cookouts with Tom and Jennifer before my marriage to camping trips and vacations after Susan came into the picture. "Hey Tom, everything okay?" I asked, concerned about his unusual mood. He looked up at me, clearly uncomfortable. "Well, what's going on?" After a moment's hesitation, he said, "Got time this evening? There's something I need to talk about. Not really office appropriate." "Sure thing," I replied without missing a beat. Susan's working late anyway. Curious about what was bothering him, I wrapped up my work day and we headed to a nearby bar afterward. After a beer and some small talk, Tom finally opened up. "I'm hitting 45 now, and I'm not as energetic as I used to be. Yesterday, Jennifer wanted to be intimate, but I just couldn't keep up. That's why I'm so wiped out today. I've never had much drive in that department, and it's getting harder to meet Jennifer's needs." Looking at his exhausted face, I felt a deep connection to his struggle. With a heavy sigh, I said, "Man, I get it. It's rough when you're not on the same page. Though in my case, I'm the one wanting more." Tom gave a knowing smile. "Must be nice having a higher sex drive." I just nodded, feeling the weight of my own situation. As the drinks kept flowing, our conversation got more personal. "So, Victor, how often would you ideally want it?" Tom asked candidly. I thought for a second before answering, "Twice a week minimum. Daily would be perfect." Tom's eyes got big. "Wait, seriously? That's exactly like Jennifer." His face fell at mentioning her name. "Yeah, she wants it about once a week too. It's just too much for me." Tom slumped in his chair. "Once every couple months is plenty for me. Just cuddling in bed makes me happy. I care more about emotional connection than physical stuff." I couldn't hide my surprise. That's exactly how Susan feels. Tom swirled his beer thoughtfully. "Well, would you look at that? Seems we've got matching problems." After a quiet moment, he mused, "You know, if Susan and Jennifer were switched around, neither of us would be having these issues." I nodded in agreement. "Yeah, compatibility really matters in these things." Maybe it was the alcohol talking, but Tom cracked a smile and joked, "So, want to swap?" Feeling pretty buzzed myself, I laughed and said, "You might be onto something." For a brief moment, I pictured Jennifer's energetic personality. With her, maybe I wouldn't feel this constant longing. But we left it at that for the evening. When I got home, slightly tipsy, Susan was relaxing in the living room. Hey, welcome back. Seeing her gentle smile, I thought about how that angelic look had made me fall for her in the first place. Whether it was our earlier conversation or the 2 months of unfulfilled desires talking, I cautiously approached her and asked, "Hey, would tonight be okay? I'm not really in the mood tonight," Susan said apologetically. When I saw that look of guilt cross her face, I didn't want to pressure her, but the familiar emptiness crept back into my heart. Tom's words from earlier echoed in my mind. During these moments, I couldn't help but think how different things would be if couples were more aligned in their desires. While I deeply loved Susan and would never dream of being unfaithful, this unspoken void was slowly eating away at me. With a heavy sigh, I sat at the edge of the bed. The next day at work, Tom still looked beat. "Hey Tom, rough night again?" I asked during lunch, genuinely concerned. He gave me a weary smile. "You're not looking so hot yourself, Victor." I let out a deep sigh and dropped my gaze. "Yeah, tried to connect with Susan last night, but got turned down. It's been 2 months now." My voice trailed off, heavy with resignation. "Man, I get it. Jennifer wanted to be intimate again last night, but trying to keep up with her needs is exhausting." The exhaustion was clear in Tom's voice. Our conversation from the bar came flooding back. If only we could find partners who were more sexually compatible. "Listen," Tom started hesitantly. "This might sound crazy, but I've been thinking about what we discussed. What if there was a way to match with more compatible partners?" We both sat in thoughtful silence. After what felt like forever, Tom carefully broached the subject. What if we gave it a shot?" His expression was dead serious. "Are you serious?" My heart skipped a beat. Tom spoke cautiously, his eyes uncertain. "If Jennifer and Susan were open to it." I nodded, feeling my pulse quicken. "Right, we definitely need their okay." Tom scratched his chin with a slight smile. "Plus, we'd need to make sure we're actually compatible." I returned his smile but kept my tone serious. "Absolutely, that's crucial. Perhaps we should discuss this with our wives over dinner," Tom suggested. "Yeah, that makes sense." While our conversation might seem questionable to outsiders, we were completely sincere. My mind raced with questions. How would Susan react? Would she flat out refuse? The thought of living with this emptiness forever made my heart sink. A few days later, we met at an upscale restaurant downtown. Susan immediately picked up on the unusual vibe. "This is fancy for us. What's the special occasion?" she asked pointedly. My anxiety peaked as the four of us took our seats, Tom and I exchanging knowing glances. "We actually called this meeting because there's something important we need to discuss with both of you," Tom began diplomatically. "Victor and I share a common concern. It's about the physical aspect of our marriages." Tom chose his words carefully as he explained to our wives. I wanted to jump in and help explain, but Tom handled it perfectly. Jennifer spoke up as soon as he finished. "So basically, you're suggesting a partner swap?" "I'm on board." I love Tom dearly, but our mismatched needs have always been an issue. If Victor's dealing with similar frustrations, maybe we could find better compatibility? Her candid response caught us off guard. Susan, however, took her time processing. "Well, I've always known about Victor's needs, and I feel terrible that I can't meet them. So I understand if he wants to explore things with Jennifer, since it's something I struggle with. But for me and Tom, I'm not sure. Any kind of physical intimacy is challenging for me. I'm sorry." "Don't worry about it. I'm not particularly driven in that department either. I just wanted to see if we might be more compatible." Tom's understanding response seemed to comfort Susan, and after some thought, she slowly agreed. We decided to try a 1-week exchange. The plan was for Jennifer to stay at my place while Susan went to Tom's. We figured familiar surroundings would make the transition easier. We agreed to reconvene in a week to discuss next steps, then headed home with our temporary partners. Though I worried about Susan, Jennifer's warm personality helped ease my concerns. That first night, as we lay side by side in bed, she gently took my hand and smiled shyly. "Would you like to get closer?" Years of pent-up passion finally broke free, and I found myself completely swept away in the moment. We shared deep, tender kisses and basked in each other's warmth. Her soft lips and sweet perfume intoxicated me, making time stand still. All those months of suppressed desires came rushing out at once. It felt like finally being able to breathe after holding my breath for so long. We made love with a perfect balance of passion and tenderness, discovering each other completely. Our connection felt absolutely natural, like we'd been made for each other. Every movement was in perfect sync, as comfortable as if we'd been together for years. Jennifer embraced every aspect of who I was, both physically and emotionally. Our compatibility was undeniable, and I found myself completely lost in our connection. We made love several times that night, and all the frustration that had been building up in my heart simply melted away. The next morning, I felt like a new person. I practically floated into the office, and when I saw Tom, he had the same glow about him. During lunch, we met at a quiet cafe to discuss the previous night. "How did things go with Susan?" I asked gently. Tom gave me a peaceful smile. "We just held hands while sleeping." She was hesitant at first, but eventually relaxed into it. Being the first night, I wanted to take things slow and let things develop naturally. When he asked about Jennifer, I replied honestly, "I'm even more productive at work now." Tom's smile showed genuine relief. Initially, I'd worried this arrangement might stir up jealousy or awkwardness, but surprisingly, those feelings never materialized. Looking back at my relationship with Susan, I realized we might have been more like close friends than romantic partners. It was a confusing revelation. The second night with Jennifer was just as magical as the first. Despite our 5-year age gap, I found her maturity incredibly attractive, and I could tell she was equally drawn to me. "Victor and I just fit together perfectly," Jennifer confided. "I love Tom deeply, but our mismatched needs were always a struggle. Whenever I tried to push through it, seeing him exhausted the next day just made me feel guilty. This experience has really opened my eyes to how crucial compatibility is in marriage." Her voice carried both relief and a touch of regret. Tom and Susan maintained their gentle pace, still just holding hands on the second night. But by the third day, something shifted. Susan reached for Tom's hand first, a small but significant step. From that moment on, she gradually began opening her heart to him. As the days went on, Jennifer and I grew even closer. Each moment with her revealed new aspects to love, her warmth, gentleness, and wisdom. Her positive energy lit up our home, and I found myself happier than I'd ever imagined possible. Meanwhile, Tom and Susan's relationship evolved at its own pace. They progressed beyond hand-holding to gentle embraces, with Susan using Tom's arm as a pillow while he stroked her hair, helping her drift off to sleep feeling safe and secure. It warmed my heart to see Susan finding her own happiness. As we approached our final day together, a sadness crept in. I wanted to savor every moment with Jennifer. With tomorrow's decision looming, the thought of losing her, her radiant smile, her gentle voice, made my heart ache. That night, knowing it might be our last, we shared an especially tender and passionate connection. The next day, we gathered in a quiet hotel lounge to discuss the past week. "Let's all be completely honest here," Tom began seriously. "We can't make good decisions unless we're totally upfront with each other. Since this was my idea, I'll start," Tom continued. "Susan and I just clicked naturally. It wasn't just about physical compatibility. Our whole daily rhythms matched perfectly. Even something as simple as holding hands felt meaningful, and I was thrilled when we both wanted to deepen our connection toward the end. Everything just felt right. Susan's cheeks flushed at his words. When Tom first mentioned switching partners, I was completely shocked, Susan admitted softly. I mainly agreed because I felt bad about not meeting Victor's needs. I thought I could just get through the week. I was worried Tom might be too demanding, but he was so patient, just holding my hand those first few days. The way he held my hand made me feel safe and protected. Her voice carried a new warmth I'd never heard before. I think it's because I lost my father when I was young. But Tom gives me this wonderful sense of paternal security, Susan explained, fidgeting with her coffee cup. Her voice trembled with emotion. I've always yearned for that kind of mature, nurturing presence in my life. With Tom's gentle, patient approach, I felt safe enough to truly open up. Yesterday, I finally let those walls down completely. Susan's face flushed as she gave a bashful smile. Though it moved me deeply, I completely understood. Tom, with his mid-40s sophistication and natural intuition for Susan's needs, was exactly what she'd been looking for. He returned her confession with a warm, understanding smile. Jennifer shifted in her seat before speaking. I have to say, this past week has been incredible. I was initially concerned about Victor's age, but he's such an attentive listener. It really moved me. And she paused, blushing slightly. We connect on such a deep level. For the first time in ages, I'm focused and energized at work, and I sleep like a baby at night. All that built up tension is just gone. My pulse quickened at Jennifer's heartfelt words. Being together every day was everything I'd hoped for. Jennifer and I click on every level, physically, emotionally, you name it. Her radiant smile just lights up my world. It feels so natural, the way we fulfill each other's needs. Despite everyone's satisfaction with the arrangement, we found ourselves grappling with the inevitable question: where do we go from here? Jennifer had captured my heart completely, yet memories of Susan still tugged at my conscience. My history with Susan was rich with meaningful moments and genuine love. She would always hold a special place in my heart. But I was beginning to realize that what we shared was more like a deep friendship than romantic love. Looking around, I could tell the others were wrestling with similar revelations. We agreed to spend 1 week with our original partners, giving ourselves time to seriously consider our options. Switching permanently, maintaining our current arrangements, or trying to make our original marriages work despite our fundamental differences. The house felt eerily quiet without Jennifer's infectious laughter and the way she'd call out Victor. I wanted to give things with Susan one last honest try. Susan, let's hold hands while we sleep tonight, I suggested, and she quietly agreed. But as soon as we lay down, she pulled away apologetically. I'm sorry, Victor. I just can't relax. It was crystal clear that Susan found her sense of security in Tom's mature presence. I understood completely because I felt the same way about Jennifer. I missed her vibrant energy and warm embrace, longing to share that deep connection again. Though we'd spent years caring for each other, the fundamental mismatch was now impossible to ignore. Throughout the week, my thoughts constantly drifted to Jennifer, while Susan clearly pined for Tom. Our physical and emotional distance only grew wider with each passing day. The night before our final decision, Susan and I sat down for an honest heart-to-heart. Susan, my love for you hasn't disappeared. It's just evolved. I've realized that what we share is a deep friendship rather than romantic love. You're incredibly important to me, but we're just not compatible as life partners. I'm so sorry. Susan shook her head gently. Please don't apologize. I feel exactly the same way. Tom represents everything I've been searching for, that stability and maturity I need. You're dear to me too, Victor, but not as a husband anymore. Tomorrow's uncertain, but I think we all know where this is heading. We should end our marriage now, but stay in each other's lives as true friends. the kind who always have each other's backs. Her eyes showed quiet resolve. I nodded in agreement. While our romantic chapter was ending, our friendship could continue to flourish. We signed the divorce papers, planning to file them first thing in the morning. Thank you, Victor. Here's to a lifetime of friendship. Thank you, too. With a warm smile and final goodbye from Susan, we drifted off to sleep peacefully that night. The next morning, we headed to the courthouse to process our divorce. While my heart ached thinking about closing this chapter of our lives, I also felt a flutter of excitement about new beginnings. Having evolved into genuine friends, we decided to meet one last time at our favorite coffee shop. When we broke the news of our divorce to Tom and Jennifer, their reaction caught us off guard. "Oh, you two?" Jennifer exclaimed, her eyes wide. "Yes, we had a heart-to-heart yesterday and made it official today," I explained softly. "We treasured our time together and were grateful for the memories, but our fundamental differences, the emotional toll of our relationship, and the genuine connections we discovered through this experience all pointed us toward this decision." Looking into Tom and Jennifer's eyes, I could see they understood exactly what we meant. As we opened up about our feelings, everything fell into place naturally. Jennifer cast a shy smile toward Tom, who returned her gaze with tenderness. After taking some time to process our emotions, Susan and I found ourselves drawn to each other again, but in a different way, a sentiment that filled my heart with joy. Like pieces of a puzzle finally finding their perfect fit, our hearts aligned beautifully. We agreed to embark on our new lives with our chosen partners while maintaining occasional contact. Over the next year, my relationship with Susan grew into something wonderful. Our home resonated with her infectious laughter, and hearing her call my name never failed to make my heart skip a beat. Each day brought us closer, our bond deepening with every shared moment. Before I knew it, Susan had become my whole world. This wasn't just attraction. It was the real deal, true love in its purest form. Since Susan's feelings matched mine completely, marriage became the natural next step in our journey. Jennifer and Tom's relationship flourished similarly. After taking time to heal and grow together, both couples eventually married. The way Jennifer and Tom looked at each other spoke volumes about their happiness. Meanwhile, Susan and I grew into a vibrant, joy-filled couple. We maintained a cordial friendship with Tom and Jennifer, occasionally running into each other at community events. Though some might raise eyebrows at our unconventional story, we knew in our hearts this was the most authentic and fulfilling path for all of us. 6 years later, our happiness continues to grow stronger every day. While our story might not follow the traditional playbook, this unique experience led me to discover what true love really means. Susan, now my wife, still greets me each morning with that radiant smile that lights up my world. Occasionally, I spot Jennifer and Tom taking their afternoon walks in the park, the picture of contentment. I treasure every moment with Susan and genuinely celebrate Tom and Jennifer's happiness too. Life has a way of working out exactly as it should,